Okay, I wanted to make a video comparing the different brands of small engines that I have. I've got three Craftsman mowers with Tecumseh engines on them. One of them is outside right now, but I got that one and that one in here. I got three Honda engines, one on the Toro, one on the Craftsman M250, and one on the HRM 216 Honda mower. I've got two Briggs and Strattons, the Quantum engine on this John Deere mower, and the Professional Series overhead valve engine on this Troy-Bilt. So I'm going to start out with the Tecumseh engines. This is an LEV 120, also known as the LV 195 EA engine. It is, in my opinion, a great engine, and the reason I say that is because these actually have an oil pump in them. They have pressurized lubrication and a cast iron cylinder liner. Both of those features are kind of unusual in an engine in this category. So, I bet a lot of people did not know that about these engines. Um, I hear a lot of people complaining about them, but really, the only problem these have is with the carburetors. I've had good luck and bad luck with the carburetors, but the engines themselves are great. And I think this one is probably good evidence for that because of the fact that, it has pressurized lubrication. It's not something you usually find. Most people probably just thought that these had, splash lubrication in a typical aluminum bore cylinder. And this one over here is a TVS 115. I believe it's about 188 cc's. That one's 195 if I didn't say that already. And this one, I'm sure it still has a cast iron cylinder bore, but I'm not sure if it has the oil pump like this one does. It very well may, but I'm not sure. One thing I do have to say about this engine right here is it's probably one of the most inefficient lawnmower engines that I've ever seen. This thing drinks through gas like crazy. That one right there, it also drinks through gas pretty quickly, but it's not quite as inefficient as this one, but it's pretty close. These old flathead Tecumseh engines just really were not an efficient design. I wanted to say one more thing about the Tecumseh engine over here, is that this thing, when I got it, had water in the oil. So I changed the oil a whole bunch of times to get all the water out, and now it runs beautifully. Doesn't make any noises that it's not supposed to. So really, I really like these Tecumseh engines. I think they're great. Now we'll move over to the Honda GCV 160 engines. Uh, one of the things I really like about these engines is the fact that they come from the factory with a fuel shutoff valve. I wish all lawnmowers had that. These are both 160 cc, and the unique thing about them is the fact that they're overhead cam. It's not your typical overhead valve or flathead valve train. So these engines have been around for a long time. They're pretty much perfected at this point. They run very smoothly and quietly. They're built very well. Even though these Honda GCV engines don't have a cast iron cylinder liner, they're just an aluminum bore, they still last for a very long time, and they don't burn oil. So the tolerances are just very tight in these engines. Now we'll move over to the Honda GCV 170. This is one of Honda's newest engines. They really only use it on their own mowers right now, though. And then one of the big differences between this engine and the older GCV engines is that this one is pushrod overhead valve instead of overhead cam like the older ones. The muffler looks to be the same, it's just got a plastic cover over it instead of a metal cover. The air filter's in the same spot, probably even uses the same filter. And yeah, this engine is supposed to be a little bit more efficient than the older ones, but I haven't really gotten a chance to compare them yet. I certainly will do that if anyone's interested. This one has a ever so slightly smaller fuel tank in it than the older ones did. I believe it's like 0.24 gallons instead of 0.25. But yeah, I'll check that and I'll leave it in the description if I made a mistake. But this again, it's a very smooth running engine. It's quiet. I really think that the overhead cam ones are the smoothest and quietest, to be honest. So now we'll move over to the Briggs & Stratton engines. Let me push this further out of the way so I can get the John Deere out. Here we have the good old Briggs & Stratton Quantum engine. This is a 190cc flathead engine, and Briggs & Stratton made this engine for a very long time. This one's rated at 5 horsepower. It's from sometime in the 90s. I'm guessing early to mid 90s. And this thing, it's on a John Deere 14SZ, by the way. This engine has a ton of hours on it. It's been used very heavily over the years. I use this thing commercially sometimes, and it does burn oil at this point. It's been, used a lot, but it still has good power, and the compression's okay, so I still use it. As you can see, I put in a new spark plug just recently. I just changed the oil. I change the oil on this thing very regularly. But this engine, it's just your pretty standard type of lawnmower engine. It's splash lubrication, and it has an aluminum cylinder bore rather than a cast iron one. And that's fine. If you change the oil in these regularly, you'll get a good life out of them. But this one, like I said, it's just gotten used so much that it's burning oil now. The cylinder walls may very well be scored up, or it could just be the rings, I don't know, but it's been taken pretty good care of and maintained well, even though it's been used a lot. So yeah, there's that one. I think these are great engines. They're really easy to fix and work on, and they run great. So I like these engines quite a bit. Here we have a Troy-Bilt TB360 with a Briggs & Stratton Professional Series 190cc overhead valve engine. Now, this engine is probably one of the most efficient lawnmower engines that I've ever seen. It takes forever to go through a tank of gas, and it's also very powerful. I believe it puts out 8.5 foot-pounds of torque, so it's probably the most efficient and powerful walk-behind lawnmower engine that I've ever seen. And I do use this thing commercially, like most of my mowers, and it seems to be holding up pretty well. I change the oil regularly. I just put a new spark plug in it, and this thing, it runs great. It's very, very quiet. You got a big muffler on it. So yeah, if you want the most efficient engine you can get, I would definitely recommend one of these Briggs & Stratton Professional Series engines, because this thing is amazingly efficient. It does have an aluminum cylinder bore, so no cast iron liner. I wish it did have a cast iron liner, but really, as long as you keep the oil changed and don't treat it like crap, it'll last for a long time. So yeah, there's that one. And now, last but not least, is the Toro TXP branded 159cc engine. This is actually made by a company called Lonson, and they make pretty much all of the Toro branded engines. They're very well built, very well designed. They're basically another type of Honda clone engine. This one has a cast iron cylinder liner, and it is just a beast of an engine. This engine puts out 7.25 foot-pounds of torque. It's 159cc, and it's overhead valve. There's the valve cover. This one, so it's pretty much the same displacement as the Honda GCV 160 engines, but they're able to get more power per displacement out of this engine because the Hondas only put out 6.9 foot-pounds of torque. This one, as you can see, is rated at 7.25. And again, it's got a cast iron cylinder liner, which I really like. It does not burn any oil. This is one of my main commercial use lawnmowers, and the thing doesn't burn any oil at all. So I'm very impressed with that. It's holding up very well. I've been using it commercially for, I think, 3 years now. This will be its 4th year, and it just keeps on holding up. So yeah, I really like this engine. It is pretty fuel efficient. I believe it has about the same size gas tank as the Honda engines do. It's smooth running. Uh, Exhaust is definitely a little bit louder than the Hondas, but I don't really care. It doesn't bother me at all. So that's pretty much all of them. I really like this Toro branded engine because of the fact that it's commercial grade. I like the Hondas because they're refined and reliable. I like the Briggs and Strattons because they're reliable, they're efficient, and they're pretty quiet. And I like the Tecumsehs because of the way they're designed and the fact that they're just very robust engines in my experience. So that's it. Thanks for watching.